Hello guys, this is your friend from ninjavibeZ and we are back with a new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Survived the Valley of the End and Trained Under the Samurai of Iron with Yugao, May Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. What have I been doing with my life? Was everything I accomplished up to this point meaningless? For all my boasting and bravado, I couldn't even save one friend. These were the thoughts swimming around in a certain young blonde-haired shinobi as he lay injured upon the cold, hard ground as rain pelted down around him. The roar of the waterfall in the background thundered through his brain as he reflected upon his actions up to that point in time. For all my training, Sasaki still defeated me in the end. He thought bitterly to himself with teeth clenched as he felt the burning yuki of the kali work upon the wound in his chest. Brother, my no brother would drive a lightning-covered fist through your chest just so he could prove himself. Nar reached out and grasped the slashed headband resting beside him. Ah, this hurts. He hissed in pain as he rolled over and pushed himself back up, the slashed headband of his former teammate grasped tightly in his hand. He turned his piercing cerulean blue gaze onto the piece of metal and cloth in his hand, the symbol of Konohagakure Noto Hidden Leaf Village clearly gouged through with a kunai. The rain drizzled down around him, serving to only increase the depressing atmosphere at the destroyed landscape of the Valley of the End. Well, Uchiha Sasaki, this officially means we're no longer brothers. Nar spat upon the metal before tossing the headband to the side as the fist-sized wound in his chest finally sealed up. Thanks for the quick repair, Kyobi. Think of it as a welcome gift for finally coming to your senses regarding the Uchiha brat. The Kyobi's voice drifted through his mind, causing his eyes to widen slightly. You can talk to me? Nar asked dumbfounded. Yeah, obviously I can speak to you. Isn't that what I just did, you meatbag? Caillou scoffed at the ridiculous question. Nar could feel a slight twitch developing in his eyebrow at the tone. Then why didn't you say anything up to now? I find it below something of my status to converse with a lowly meatbag like you. Kalobi replied smugly. And just think of your response, meatbag. Otherwise, other meatbags will think you were not saying that you aren't already. I hate you. Nar groaned as he painfully trudged back into the forest. The feeling is mutual, meatbag. Despite Caillou healing the life-threatening wound, the major blood loss soon took its toll as his vision started to swim. Nar stumbled forward a little as darkness encroached on his vision. He instinctively reached out to grasp at something to keep his balance. His hand brushed against the harsh bark of a nearby tree trunk and automatically braced his shoulder against it. Nothing I can do about it. Time to say nighty-night, meatbag. Nar managed to get off before he completely blacked out and collapsed forward onto the forest floor. The unconscious blonde genin was unaware of the crunching sound that steadily approached him. The sound of someone or something making its way through the forest towards his prone form. A pause in the sound was followed by a startled gasp and a gruff voice. Well, that's not what I was expecting to see on my annual visit to the Fire Damo's palace. Undetermined number of hours later, a groan echoed throughout a small, simple room as cerulean blue eyes flickered open and close, trying to blink the sleep from them, albeit unsuccessfully. Uzumaki Naruto woke to find himself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. It was neither that of his home or the hospital. Feeling something damp on his forehead where his headband should be, he reached up a hand to find a damp cloth placed there. For a brief moment, confusion stretched across his face before the events of the past day suddenly hit him like a giant toad summoned by his perverted teacher. Okay, calm down. Looks like somebody stumbled across my unconscious body and carried me back to their home, or a rented room at least, Nar thought as he tossed the cloth onto a nearby table and sat up, pleasantly noting that most of the pain from his wounds had gone away. Taking a look down at himself, he noticed that his torn, tattered, and bloodied orange jumpsuit had been replaced by a simple yet elegant L-looking crimson yukata. His eyes widened slightly at feeling the smooth texture of the cloth used. It was definitely worth more than everything he owned combined. Whoever found me must be pretty wealthy to be able to afford clothing of this standard, he thought before taking in his surroundings. It was basically what most people expected to find in most rented rooms. A bathroom, a single bed, a wardrobe, 2 windows, and a bedside table with a lamp. The blonde shinobi got to his feet and walked over to the window to take a peek outside. It overlooked a busy market street filled with stores and bustling with people. Definitely not Konoha, and I recognized all of the streets and alleyways ever since I started pulling pranks and had to escape detection or outrun the Inu. Nar sighed as he pressed his forehead against the glass. Such a tired sigh for someone so young. A rather rough and elderly voice sounded from behind him, causing him to immediately twirl around in a simple taijutsu stance. Focused blue eyes instantly scanned the individual before him. The initial look of an elderly man did not get him to loosen his stance. He had long gray hair which almost reaches down to his waist with bandages wrapped around his head. Black eyes with distinct wrinkles underneath them. He also has a gray goatee and mustache. The man too wore an elegant but simple dark purple yukata with a gray haori over it. But what caught his attention was the katana strapped to his waist. The sword appeared to be fairly long and thin. Judging from the sheath had a rectangular handguard and a long hilt wrapped in bandages. While anyone could have bought a katana and strode around with it attached to their waist, they could not exude the aura of experience and sheer deadliness that the elderly man seemed to emit. "Who are you?" Nar finally asked after his analysis was done. "My name is Mafun. How about you, Jen?" Inhaling from Kanahager. "No Sato. What is your name?" Mafun asked after replying. "Nar Uzuzuaki." Nar. Mafun's eyes widened by a slight margin upon hearing that name. Usuzuaki. Now that is a name I have not heard in a long, long time. They were said to have been completely wiped out during the Second Great Shinobi War. I had a family." Nar stuttered out in surprise, his cerulean eyes wide. "You didn't know?" Mafun raised a delicate eyebrow as if he did not believe it. "You, an Uzumaki raised in Kanahagakar no Sato, has not heard of the great Uzuaki clan that you hailed from. A clan that was just as important and powerful as the Senju. No, they never covered anything about them in the academy." Naru answered truthfully with a blank expression whilst his mind was working at a furious pace. The Uzumaki clan was as famous as the Senju. How come something as important as that was never taught by Iruka-sensei? Why did everyone act as if Uzuaki was just a normal name if it really is as big as this Mafun guy mentioned? It seems the truth will finally be revealed. Kalubi suddenly injected in a strangely neutral tone. "Kalubi, what do you mean by that? It matters not, as the elderly Mitag is going to explain it to you sooner or later." The demonic entity went completely silent after that, as if content to just watch and see how everything would unfold. "That doesn't make sense. The Uzumaki clan were distant relatives of the Senju clan and played just as big a role in Konoha's history as the Senju and Uchiha clans. The shinobi of Konoha integrated Usuzu Shioaxe symbol onto their uniforms and flak jackets, as well as on the shoulders of their uniforms, as a sign of friendship and goodwill between the two villages, and continued to do so to this day in memory of their friendship even years after Usuzu Shioakar's destruction. Mafun explained as he shook his head. "I see. Then why was I treated as a clan-less orphan left to starve and survive on my own from the age of 6? Nar kept his voice neutral as he asked. You were left on your own at the age of 6. Mafun's voice rose slightly in shock, his mind trying to work around the fact that a child had been abandoned to fend for himself at such a young age. Yes, I was kicked out of the orphanage when my 6th birthday came around. Drunken shinobi and civilians then formed a mob and chased me through the streets at night, hurling insults, glares, and weapons at my back as I ran. Nar took a deep breath to calm himself as well as allow the information to soak in. Eventually, they cornered me at a dead end and proceeded to beat the ever-living out of me, often using a canny or two. The Ambu arrived a minute later and spirited the aggressors away. Kami above Mafun whispered in disgust. I lay there injured and bloodied for another full minute before another ambush showed up to take me to the hospital where I was refused treatment by the staff on account of being a no-good demon brat. It was only when the Sandaime Hokage arrived would I actually be admitted to a ward where I was given the bare minimal treatment for my wounds. Nar looked the older man in the eyes as he prepared to say his next sentence. And if you hadn't guessed by now, the reason for my treatment is because I am the Ginuriki of the Kyobi no Yoko. I guessed as much. Ginuriki across the elemental nations seem to get the same kind of treatment. Mifune sighed before asking another question. So Naruto, how did you end up where you were when I found you? Just Nar is fine. Mifune-san, and it was due to someone I used to consider a brother. Nar proceeded to relate his entire tale of drama and happenings to the aged man. Feeling an odd sense of relief after pouring everything out onto someone else. If there is something we samurai hate more than anything else, it is betrayal. Betrayal of trust, of loyalty, of friendship. People that perform such deeds do not deserve to continue living in our eyes. Mafune spat in disgust after hearing the tale. You're a samurai? Nar asked in surprise. Indeed, Nar. I am Mafune Tisho, general of Tetsuni, land of iron and leader of the samurais. Mafune introduced himself fully this time. Does that mean you're like their cage or something? From a shinobi point of view, yes, I am something akin to a cage, at least in political power, if not raw unbridled power. Mifune chuckled slightly. Mifune-sama, please forgive me for my ignorance. Nar bowed his head as he kneeled down on one knee, not wanting to get on the bad side of the leader of a country, especially not one that just bothered to save my life. That's not necessary, Nar. We samurai tend to stay out of shinobi business. So, it isn't much of a surprise that the younger ninjas don't know who I am. Also, you could say that shinobi and samurai have a long-standing silent rivalry going on, probably due to our conflicting ideals and thoughts. Mifune said as he helped the young blonde-haired Ginuriki back to his feet. I remember some things from history class. Shinobi go about in any way to accomplish their task, be it lying, stealing, assassination, or other deceitful and dishonorable means. Samurai are bound by a code of honor that they are not allowed to break or risk getting severe penalties. Nar narrowed his eyes as he recited the text from his memory. Haha, that's rather old material you got there. Where did your teacher pull that out from? The ancient archives. Living among several large armies composing of lying, cheating backstabbers will definitely force us to change our ways. The elderly man chuckled in amusement as he shook his head. So that means you abolished the code of honor? Nar asked in curiosity. Yes and no. We removed most of it, but there are still strict rules and regulations that we adhere to, such as rape, murder, plundering, and anything along those lines are not permitted and will be dealt with accordingly. Mafune replied, causing Nar to stare at him in thought for a moment. Is something on your mind, Nar? Hi, Mafune-sama. Nar dropped to one knee and bowed his head. Please train me in the arts of the samurai. Mifune felt his eyes widen at the request. What prompted such a request? We have only just met and you would entrust your life to me. I see no choice other than to trust you. Besides, the fact that you could have just left me for dead when you found me. Plus that aura of strength and confidence that you carry around you, it is definitely not just for show. Nar replied without hesitation. What about your shinobi career? Your village friends and family? Mifune asked. My shinobi career is non-existent with the village holding me back. The majority of the village population hates me for being the Ginuriki of the Kyobi. I hardly am close to any of my friends and what family. I am an orphan, Naruto answered whilst meeting the older man's gaze with a steely expression. Well then, Mifune stroked his beard as he considered his options before smirking slightly. I see no reason not to accept your request. Besides, I always wanted an apprentice of my own. Not to mention that apprentice being the first ever Jinchuriki samurai. Arigato Mifune-sama. This means a lot to me. Nar sprang to his feet with a genuine smile and bowed respectfully. Now that we're less than greater than master and apprentice, you have to address me as Mifune-sensei. The experienced samurai leader informed the blonde, who nodded in understanding. Hi, Mifune-sensei. So, are we going back to Tetsu Nuni to begin my training? Nar asked, already excited at the prospect of his new training. Eventually, Naruto, but for now, we're going to be traversing the elemental nations so as to get you familiarized with the different countries and their people. Mifune replied. Nar scrunched up his eyes at the answer. Nay, what does running around the countries help with my training? Well, being a good warrior doesn't necessarily consist of being the best fighter. Sometimes words can be just as potent a weapon. Not all battles can be solved using force, my apprentice. Sometimes a little more diplomacy is required. Mifune turned around and opened the door of the room before looking over his shoulder. Let's go. Time to begin your training. Nar shoved all his thoughts to the back of his mind for the moment, choosing to focus on whatever his master wanted of him. In Konohagakure, no sad. Kakashi, could you repeat that again? Had asked with a sickly sweet tone, causing the masked Junin to gulp slightly as cold sweat trickled down the back of his head. Both Naruto and Sasaki seemed to have left the village. Kakashi answered nervously. And what would make you come to that conclusion about Naruto brat? Tsunade inquired as civilly as she could. Well, I found Sasake's scratched-out headband by the Valley of the End and Naruto's headband by the edge of the forest. The silver-haired Junin replied, his usual Ika book clutched in his hand but unopened. And Naruto's headband, was it scratched out like the Uchiha's? No, Hokage-sama. Well, Kakashi, could it have been possible that the Uchiha decided that Naruto would make a good offering to Orochimaru? Or that an enemy shinobi could have kidnapped him after recognizing the whisker marks as the sign of a Jinchuriki? Tsunade growled with an eyebrow twitching violently. That is highly possible. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. And you didn't think of this before because the busty blonde Hokage cracked her knuckles. Well, you see, I was about to check when a black cat walked under a ladder beside me. He offered with a weak smile. Kakashi, you lazy perverted bastard, Cyclopsade roared as she cocked her chakra-loaded fist back. Kakashi gulped and held his little orange book up in front of his face like a shield. Protect me, porn. Unfortunately, that did little to help him as the superpowered punch knocked him sky-high out of the Hokage Tower and sent him sailing across the village, leaving an angered Tsunade to calm herself down. Sama, what do we do now about Naruto? I mean, Shizune asked nervously. Get together the best tracker team possible. I want them to head to Naruto's last known position and see if they can track him down. By sight, smell, sound, or chakra, I don't give a damn as long as there are results. Black-haired apprentice, who could only nod me before scurrying off to fulfill her orders. The blonde cage massaged her temples before speaking to a seemingly empty room. What do you want, Jiraiya? And I swear that if it is anything dumb then I will send you flying like I did with Kakashi. Of course Jiraiya gulped nervously as he dropped his camouflage technique before his voice turned serious as he locked eyes with her. I heard everything that Kakashi reported and I will be going on my own search for him using the toads since they have excellent chakra sensors. However, if I do find him, I would like your permission to train him away from the village for 3 years. 3 years? Why would you want him out of the village for so long? Asked with a raised eyebrow. I would be training him in the shinobi arts as well as teaching him how to control and utilize the Kyobi's chakra. Also, Akatsuki has started to move, Jiraiya said with a tone devoid of his usual playfulness. Are you sure? Positive. My spies have confirmed with me that they have finally emerged from hiding and their objective is to capture all of the Beiju-tailed beasts, the purpose of which is something that I do not know. So, I plan on keeping Nar on the move so Akatsuki would have a tougher time targeting him as well as training him to fight S-class enemies. Plus, it will allow me to travel and acquire more information on this elusive S-class missing nin organization and its members. Jiraiya explained in detail. Quote, ... I consent to your request. However, that is on the basis that you managed to find him first. Sununade sighed before pulling open her bottom drawer and channeling some of her chakra into a hidden storage seal, revealing a bottle of sake. So that's where you hide your alcohol. Jiraiya muttered with a shake of his head. You want any? She held up the glass bottle only to receive a negative. Enjoy yourself. I've got a missing blonde genin to track down. The white-haired Sanine smirked before leaping out the window of her office. Just sighed again before unccoring the bottle and chugging down the contents, relishing in the burn that the alcohol caused in her throat. Just as she took another gulp of alcohol, the door to her office swung open. Sama, are you drinking on the job again? Shizune shouted at her mentor, causing said woman to choke on the drink and spray it out of her mouth whilst hiding the bottle behind her back. No. Regardless, here is the team that I managed to assemble, Sama. The black-haired petite assistant stepped out of the way, allowing 3 shinobi to enter the room. The first person was a male with long black hair and featureless white eyes that signified his belonging to the famed Hyuga clan. He wore a very traditional loose-fitting white robe with the standard Konoha Junin vest situated over it and a Konoha hit forehead protector around his forehead. The second person was a female with animalistic looks about her. She has long spiky brown hair, vertical slit-like pupils, elongated canine teeth, and nails. She also has the clan fang markings of the Inuzuka on her cheeks, as well as markings over her eyes, and a dark shade of purple lipstick. She wears the standard outfit of a Konoha Junin shinobi. The third person was a male. Like all members of the Ibarame clan, had his eyes obscured by dark glasses which feature a single tassel hanging down from one side. He has very spiky short black hair and a mustache. He typically wears a high-collared outfit while carrying a gourd on his back similar to that of Sabaku Nogara Hyuga Hiyashi Inazukam and Ibarame Shibi. I didn't expect 3 clan heads to step up to this task. Sununade said with disbelief in her voice. It's less than greater than good to get off our behinds and make sure our skills haven't rusted after all this time. Hokage-sama soon let out a bark of laughter after her sentence. It would be very unbecoming of myself as a clan head when my own nephew very nearly gave his own life to retrieve a member of our shinobi forces. Yet I sit behind a desk all day. No, Hai replied with a small smirk. Quote. Shibi stared on impassively from behind his shades. Glad to have you three aboard then. Now I take it that Shizune has informed you of your mission. Sununade asked, getting 3 nods in response. Good. Now head out while the trail is still relatively fresh. Hi Hokage-sama. The 3 experienced Junin saluted before vanishing in their respective Shinin Nojutsu body flicker technique with Mafune and Naruto. The master and apprentice had left the small town and were walking alongside a merchant caravan on its way to Takiger no Sato Hidden Waterfall Village, which was the first stop on the samurai's list. Tell me, Nar, what do you know about Takar no Sato? Mafune asked as they chatted. Well, there was this one time that my former team was assigned a mission to protect the current leader of Takeder, Shibuki. My Junin leader at that time had to leave due to an emergency Junin meeting, leaving us to fulfill a side mission of cleaning up the area. However, Shibuki's former teacher betrayed the village by allying up with a Megakure hidden rain shinobi to steal the famed hero water of the village. Nar paused for a moment as his eyes dulled slightly. It was a tough fight, but I managed to defeat him with the help of Kaiu and Sasaki. I see, Mafune whispered as he stroked his beard. He still misses his ex-teammate despite what has happened in his own resolve. I guess that is to be expected after all. That is about my only experience with Takiger Mafune-sensei. Naruto's voice cut him out from his thoughts. Did you know that Takagaker has its own Ginryuki? Mafune glanced sideways to observe his apprentice's reaction. Nar stumbled slightly when he heard that before recovering and looking up at the elderly samurai with wide eyes. Taki has a Ginryuki like me. Yes, well, not exactly like you. When your Shadow Hokage Senju Hashimara gave away the Biju in a gesture of goodwill to the other villages, Takidikar received the Nanabino no Kabuto Mushi 7-tailed rhinoceros beetle and thus gained its very own Ginryuki by sealing it into infants to train to wield the powerful chakra entity. Mafune explained as he chuckled at the blonde's rapt attention. Last I heard it was sealed into an infant girl. A girl is the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi. I wonder if she has gone through the same lifestyle as me. Nar whispered the last part to himself, but his master still managed to pick it up. Don't worry about that first. We less than greater than LL have the chance to meet her once we get there. For now, I want you to do something for me. The elderly man held out his hand. Could you pass me one of your kunai? Sure, Nar replied in confusion as he pulled out a kunai from its slot and handed it over grip first. Now Nar Toei apprentice, this is one of the most basic things regarding chakra that samurai learn. It's how to channel your chakra into your weapon, thus increasing its cutting power and resilience. Mafune explained as he held up the kunai and channeled his chakra into it. Nar watched in interest as the kunai soon had a dull blue glow around it which steadily grew brighter. The glow eventually stabilized into a blue shroud around the entire weapon. He followed his sensei as he walked over to a random tree and slashed at it with a chakraless kana first, then followed by a chakra-enhanced kunai. As you can see by the demonstration, the chakra-enhanced kunai left a much deeper gash on the tree trunk in comparison to a normal kunai. This is one of the most basic techniques of the samurai. Now I want you to try it for yourself. Mafune told the blonde as he returned the kunai and they resumed walking. I will do my best, Mafune-sensei. Nar grinned as he stared at the plain kunai in his grip. The original him would have just blasted chakra into it straight and hope for the best. But he had changed already. So he tried applying the tree walking principle to this. Okay. Not too much and not too little. Have to find the correct balance. Nar chanted in his mind as he channeled his chakra into the weapon. But even after a minute, nothing happened. The blonde blinked as he switched hands and tried again, but yet again there were no changes. He took a deep breath and tried again and again, and kept switching hands. After the 20th time, he could feel his eyebrow twitching already. All he had managed to do was stick the kunai to his hand like how he stuck to surfaces using the tree walking exercise. Nar finally gave up with a sigh of defeat before looking up at his mentor to see a knowing smirk on his face. Mifune-sensei, any tips to help me along? Well, Naruto Toei, what you're doing is actually just channeling chakra into your hand, thus resulting in the sticking effect. However, what you're supposed to be doing is to channel your chakra into your weapon and not your hand. Enough of a hint for you? Mifune asked with an amused tone. Channel into the weapon, huh? Nar looked down at the kunai in his hand and tried pushing his chakra into the weapon. Still no result other than attaching it to his palm again. Still no luck, huh? Pay attention to what I said carefully. Channel your chakra into your weapon. Channel it into your weapon. That's what I'm trying to do. Nar shouted in frustration as he attempted and failed once again. Stupid Mitag. Do you still not realize what the old Mitag is talking about? Kyobe's voice drifted through his mind suddenly. No Fuzzy. I do not understand. You really are a dumb bag of meat, aren't you? Shut up, Fuzzy. Well, then I guess I'll keep the answer to myself, then. Kyo could practically feel his container's eyes widening after that statement. Hey, wait a minute. You know the answer. Quick, hurry up and tell me. Say the magic word. Please tell me the answer. Address me as Kyobe-sama and not Fuzzy. Please tell me the answer. Kyobe-sama. Nar growled slightly as he said it. Wonderful, amazing, and beautiful Kyobe-sama. Don't push it, Fox. Well, I guess you don't want to know the answer then. Kyobe's voice was taunting, causing his eyebrow to twitch slightly as he sighed. Please tell me the answer. Oh, wonderful, amazing, and beautiful Kyo-sama. Nar repeated with a mocking reverent tone before his eye widened. Wait a freaking second. You're female. Oh, so now you're a sexist meatbag. Are you telling me that females can't be strong? Huh, why so surprised that the strongest Beiju in existence at the moment is female? Kyo went off into a rant inside his mind, resulting in a rather uncomfortable migraine for him. No, I didn't mean it like that. I was surprised because we were told that all of you were just chakra constructs and had no gender. Nar thought back in reply as he rubbed his head gently. Mifune cocked an eyebrow at his apprentice's weird behavior. The boy seemed to be making strange facial expressions ranging from annoyance to shock, and now he was massaging his brow. The most the elderly samurai could come up with was that his apprentice was currently communicating with his nine-tailed tenant. Shows what you useless meat bags know. Yes, we you all have genders just like how we all have names and not just our titles. Kyo scoffed. Wait, you have names as well. Then what's your name? Nar asked in curiosity, as if I would grace a pathetic meatag like you with my name. I'm just glad that it's not something like Nar Fishcake. For the last time, my name is Nar Maelstrom. That's what I said. Kalubi snickered to herself before clearing her throat. So, do you want to know the answer or not? Of course I do. Well, Meatbag listened closely. Why do you think he said your weapon and not the weapon? Because it is my weapon. Nar hazarded a guess and swore he could hear the sound of Kyobe ramming her head against the metal bars of her cage. No, you blonde idiotic meatag. He means that you have to view the weapon as an extension of yourself and not just another ninja tool. You have to treat the kunai like it's a part of your body so your chakra can flow into it easier. Kyo explained with an exasperated tone. Oh, can I ask you another question? I'm almost afraid to ask what it is, but go ahead. Why does your voice not sound feminine at all? I am a towering nine-tailed demonic fox with the power to crush mountains and summon tidal waves. Having a soft and pleasant feminine voice does not fit the profile me tag. Oh, thanks for the advice anyway. Caillou shook her snout as she felt her container sever the mental link. I can't believe I got sealed into this dumb meat bag, though he looks much better than that girly boy of a father he had. Mafun watched out of the corner of his eye as his apprentice took a deep breath and sighed before focusing on his kunai. There seemed to be a calmer and focused air about him. He felt his eyebrow rise slightly when he noticed a shimmering blue aura form around the kunai, though it did not last for long and disappeared a minute later. Had an enlightening conversation with your partner, I assume? Mafun asked with a knowing smile. You could say that, sensei, but I finally understand what you meant. Nar replied with a grin as he formed an unstable blue glow around his kunai again. Very good, Nar. Now practice and learn how to stabilize your chakra within your kunai. It should be instinctual and able to pull it off without putting so much effort and thought into it like you are currently doing. So keep practicing until we reach Takigakar. No Sadto. Mafun instructed with a strict tone. Nar saluted playfully before turning his attention back to his kunai and resuming their trek towards the village. Both of them unknowing of the presence spying upon them. Leader Sama must know of this. Immediately. Well then, stop wasting time here and let's go. A distorted dual-to-need voice argued with itself, revealing that the owner of said voice was a strange plant-like man with a huge Venus fly-trap sprouting from his shoulders and encompassing his head. We haven't gotten anything to eat yet. I'm hungry too, you idiot. The faster we report this, and then the faster we can feast. The plant-like man nodded absent-mindedly before sinking back into the tree trunk it had emerged from, leaving no trace of his presence. With the Konoha tracker team. There's a blood trail leading back here from the Valley of the End. It looks like the kid fought it out with the Uchiha Brad and lost but managed to survive. His scent stops here, which means that he collapsed against this tree, yet there is no body. Soon reported as she sniffed the air once again. Mikey Cow informed me that there was another chakra presence here other than Naruto's, and it wasn't the Uchi. Shibi told them in his usual monotone voice. Nothing within range of my Bakugan either. Hold on. I think I've got something. Hayashi squinted before grinning. Well, looks like we have a trail. I managed to pick up a faint trail of Kyobi's chakra that was probably at work healing the damage done to the Uzumaki kid's body. Fantastic. Lead the way. Soon shouted as the three shinobi took off again with Hiyashi in the lead. The trio eventually arrive at a simple town situated in the outskirts of Hain Nokuni, Land of Fire. Hiyashi leads them towards an inn in the middle of the town. The three shinobi getting strange looks from the citizens as they were a rather rare sight, especially in a small rural town like theirs. Hai walked into the inn only to blink in surprise when he spotted a man with a familiar mane of spiky white hair standing at the receptionist desk and flirting with the female stationed there. Jiraiya-sama, the Hyuga clan head, called out, prompting the Sonin to turn around. Hyuga, Hiyashi, Inuzuka and Abarame Shibi certainly didn't expect to see three prominent clan heads out this far from Konoha. What are you all doing here anyway? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade-sama sent us three out as a tracking squad to search for Uzumaki. Naruto, it seems like you're doing the same thing. Ya pervert laughed when she saw the insulted look on the Toad Senin. You hurt my feelings. I am not a pervert but a super pervert. Jiraiya shouted out as he held up a finger in the air, causing the three clan heads to palm their face in embarrassment. Friendly banter aside, Jiraiya-sama, it looks like you arrived at the same location that we have, Shibi said as he pushed his shades up his nose. Yeah, apparently Naruto was here up until a few hours ago. The receptionist said that he had left with the same person that had brought him in, an elderly man with a bandaged head wearing expensive-looking clothing and a katana sheathed at his waist. Jiraiya told them before sighing, which hardly narrows down our list of suspects, as anyone could have just used a hen nojutsu transformation technique to fool a civilian. Looks like we have to split up and ask around the town then. All right, how about we meet back up outside this inn around an hour later? Hai asked and received 3 nods of understanding before they split up. An hour later, and the 4 Konohagure shinobi met back up outside the inn with various looks of disappointment evident on their faces. One look at each other and they could tell. So, I take it that none of you managed to find any leads as to where the blonde brat had wandered off to, or the identity of the person he was with? Jiraiya asked with a small hint of hope. However, that hope was crushed when all 3 clan heads shook their heads in response, as soon ran a clawed hand through her rough spiky hair. The closest thing to a lead I got was that a villager had seen them leave together with a merchant caravan earlier, but they have no idea as to where that caravan was headed. Damn, that caravan could have crossed the boundaries of Hakuni already. If that is the case, then I am the only one able to pursue it due to my abilities as a spy master. You 3 should head back and report Tassanade also, as a precaution in case of the situation where the merchant caravan had decided to travel inland towards Konoha instead. Jiraiya barked out orders, getting 3 curt nods before they spun around and dashed off. The toad Sanin bit his thumb before running through several hand seals and slammed his open palm onto the ground, causing a sealing matrix to spread out across the sandy floor. Kuchio less than onk greater than, no. Jutsu summoning technique. The smoke cleared to reveal a medium-sized dark blue toad with a pair of daggers sheathed at its waist. Yo, Jiraiya, I presume you're ready to resume tracking down Nar. Hi, Gamut. What of the boy's connection to the summoning scroll? Jiraiya asked as he hopped up on the toad's head and stuck there using his chakra. His connection is still there, meaning that he is still alive. Gamut croaked in response. Then how come you guys haven't just reverse summoned him back to Mount Myoboku? Definitely not from lack of trying. I'll tell you that. The toad blinked large amphibious eyes as he hopped out of the small town. However, it seems like something or someone is blocking our attempts to reverse summon him. It's like there is some sort of foreign chakra interference. It must be the work of the Kyobi. For whatever reason, it seems that the beast does not want Naro back in our custody. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. That's a scary thought. It means that the Kyobi must have something planned for him, which just makes it all the more urgent that we track him down faster in an unknown location. So, you're telling me that the Kyobi Ginuriki has chosen to abandon his village and train under Mafune, the samurai general of Tetsununi? A distorted male voice echoed throughout the cave. The speaker was a holographic representation of the shadowy form of a man with spiky hair and pale purple eyes with a ripple-like pattern. High Leader Sama, the blonde brat, has indeed done so. The plant-like man reported, his yellow dot-like eyes staring straight ahead unblinking. Well, looks like things have just gotten a whole lot more interesting, wouldn't you say, Itachi? A holograph of a large man holding an equally huge sword laughed. Mifune is an experienced and powerful samurai that stood up to Salamander Hanzo and earned his respect. Something that only the 3 Sonin had done before. It is not wise to underestimate his skills. The Uchiha prodigy replied with his eyes closed. Oh, I'm just psyched up to have a sword fight with a real samurai. See how they fare against Hoshigaki Kisame, one of the Kurino Shinobatana Shinen Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. The revealed Kisame declared with a gleeful tone. Just remember that we need the Kyobi Ginuriki back in one piece, Kisame, or it will be your head. The ripple-patterned eyes gazed in the shark man's direction, slightly creeping him out. Got it. Leader Sama, I'll make sure the brat survives. Not saying that he wouldn't be missing a few parts though. Gaha came laughed again. Very well, Durera and Sazori, you two are to get ready to head to Takagakure no Sado so you can capture the Ginriki of the Nanabino no Kabuto Mushi. Don't expect much in way of shinobi resistance as the village seems to despise her existence and would appear to be rather glad to be rid of her presence. The shadowy form of the leader turned his gaze towards two holograms standing beside each other, one noticeably hunched over, making it seem shorter. Don't worry, Leader Sama. My art will make sure that it will be a blast. The taller shadow exclaimed, my spy network has already informed me of her current location. We will set out immediately. The hunched over figure spoke in a raspy, deep male accent. Excellent. Then this meeting is dismissed. The leader swiped his hand, cutting off the holographic communication. Mifune-sensei, I managed to stabilize my chakra. An excited young male voice piped up as Utsuaki Naruto held up the glowing blue kana with a grin. Excellent Naruto. Now all you have to do is work on performing the feat with as minimal attention required as possible. However, that is enough for the moment as we have arrived at our destination. Mifune said as they descended a dirt path with the merchant caravan. Still as amazing as the first time I saw it. Nar whispered in awe once they had rounded the corner. The path had turned into a beautiful valley with cascading waterfalls situated in various places. Each of them falling into a small lake of its own and with each lake having a small channel of water that connected them all to a much larger lake right in the center. In the middle of the giant lake was a giant tree easily 4 to 5 times larger than the largest trees in the forest of Nuni, Land of Fire. The layout of the village remained basically unchanged with multiple dwellings situated throughout the area. The largest being the village leader house near the combined lake. Takar no Sado Hidden Waterfall Village. No matter how many times I visit, it always manages to captivate me with its beauty. Mifune said with a smile as they could overhear the murmurs of awe from the merchants. Hulk travelers, please identify yourselves before we allow you any further into our territory. A voice called out as two Taki shinobi jogged over to the group from their guard posts. I'm Mifune, the samurai general of Tetsu Nuni, Land of Iron, on my annual trip to visit the leaders of various nations, and this is my apprentice Naruto. The elderly samurai introduced himself before gesturing to the blonde beside him, causing the two guards to bow instantly. Welcome back, Mifune-sama. I hope you and your apprentice will enjoy your stay here in Takagakure no Sado. Both of them straightened again before the first guard beckoned them over. My partner will continue his guard duty. I will escort you to your prepared room at the inn. However, we have only booked one room for your stay since we weren't aware that you had taken on an apprentice. The shinobi glanced over at Nar and seemed to lock gazes with him for a while. You look really familiar. Have we met before? Nar stiffened slightly as he looked up at his mentor with a silent question. He received a response in the form of a shrug. So, he decided to reveal his identity. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I was part of the genin team that helped your current leader Shibuki to defeat the traitor who tried to steal the hero water. He told the escort, oh, Shibuki-sama will be glad to hear of your return then. Everyone in the village is extremely grateful of your actions, so please accept my formal thanks on behalf of the village. The Taki shinobi bowed in Naruto's direction, getting an embarrassed blush out of the blonde. Ah, that's okay. I was just doing my job, that's all. Nar waved off the thanks without a second thought. Strong and modest as well. You're definitely going to go far, kid. The shinobi shook his head with a grin before turning around and looking over his shoulder. Well, enough time to chat later. I have to get you guys up to Shibuki-sama's office. Well, Lead the way, Shinobi-san. Mifune said. The master and apprentice took in the sights of the village as they were led through the different housing districts as well as the market district before finally arriving at the tallest building in the area. The building seemed to have at least 4 levels and was painted a royal blue with the village symbol painted in front with cyan paint. They entered the building and walked up to the receptionist. Emma, is Shibuki-sama currently available? Their guide asked the receptionist. Ah, Sato, for what reason do you need an audience with Shibuki-sama? Emma asked, causing Sato to jerk a thumb over his shoulder at them. Not for me. General Mifune and his apprentice just arrived. Emma peeked over his shoulder and nodded once. Of course, Shibuki-sama is currently free, so just bring them right up and remember to knock the door this time. Yeah, whatever. Sato drawled as he waved back at her over his shoulder as he faced the duo. I'll bring you guys up to the office since our leader is currently free at the moment. I can't wait to see Shibuki again. I wonder if he has gotten any stronger. Nar grinned at the thought of having a spar with Takar's own leader. Nar, you would be wise to remember that Shibuki is the leader of a village, so you should address him with the proper respect that he deserves. Mifune chided him softly, getting a sheepish smile of apology from his apprentice. Somehow, I believe that Shibuki-sama won't less than greater than T-mind in the slightest. Santo laughed as he led them up to the 3rd floor and rapped on an ornamental-looking door. Come in, a familiar voice called from the other side of the doors. Sad pushed the doors open and strode in to stand before a large mahogany desk. He raised his hand and saluted the man sitting behind the desk. Mifune and Nar walked in behind the tacky shinobi, immediately drawing the attention of the leader of the village as he laid his eyes on the elderly samurai general. Ah, Mifune-sama, what a pleasure to see you again, Shibuki exclaimed with a smile. Likewise, Shibuki-san, I trust you are more than acquainted with my apprentice here. Mifune held back a chuckle when he saw the village leader's eyes bugged out when he looked over at the blonde. Narzuki Nar, is that you? Shibuki asked as he stood up from his seat and rounded the desk to stand in front of the grinning blonde. The one and only, Nar replied with a laugh. By Kami, what are you doing all the way out here? And with Mifune-sama, no less. Not that it isn't great to see you again. Shibuki questioned him. Nar could only sigh. It's less than greater than great to see you too, Shibuki-sama. As for my presence here, well, it's a rather long story. Just call me Shibuki. No need for formalities, especially after what you and Sasaki have done for my village. Shibuki said with a smile, but noticed the flinch when he mentioned the Uchiha's name. I take it by your flinch that it has something to do with Sasuke-san. Yes, he defected from the village and chose to run off to Orochimaru, an S-class missing nin from Konoha for power. I was part of the group that was assigned to chase after him. I failed to stop him. Nar clenched his fist as he was reminded of his failure. Don't tell me your village banished you over something like that, Shibuki asked with wide eyes. Hano, they wish they could have. I bet. I chose to leave the village myself after realizing that the village was holding me back. A Junin sensei that taught me nothing but the tree walking exercise. Bigoted idiots that cannot distinguish a kunai from its ceiling scroll. Achievements written off as nothing. There were hardly any reasons for me to stay loyal to that village. Shibuki shook his head when he heard the reasons being listed off. How could such a great and respected village such as Konohagakure no Sato treat one of their own like this? It's less than greater than because of something out of his control, Shibuki-san, something that every person holding the same burden as him would have experienced. I think you would know seeing as how your village has someone just like him. Mifune said cryptically as the gears started turning inside the village leader's head. You don't mean Naruto is a Ginuriki like Fu? Shibuki exclaimed with shock. Yes, I am the Ginuriki of the Kyobi no Yoko. Due to that burden being placed on me, my whole life has been hell. Nar confirmed with a sigh before perking up slightly. Since you mentioned Fu, do you think I can meet her? Shibuki and Sato seemed to hesitate at that, which quickly drew the suspicion of both master and apprentice. They glanced at each other before looking over at the nervous leader. That isn't a problem, right? Unless there's something you'd like to tell me, Mafun asked with an unreadable expression on his face. No problem at all, Mafun-sama. It's less than greater than just that Fu isn't exactly well liked in our village and has experienced many of the things that Naruto probably has as well. As such, she seems to have become distrusting of people in general. Choosing to isolate herself from the rest of the village, Shibuki felt sweat pouring down his neck as the killing intent in the room rose slightly. Were you part of the reason? Nar asked dangerously, causing the two Takeda residents in the room to gulp at the tone. And no, actually, Sato and I are part of the small group of people that she trusts. Shibuki heaved an inner sigh of relief when the killing intent dropped back to less radical levels. Where does she stay? Nar asked. I told you she doesn't trust other people and will attack the moment she lays her eyes on someone she doesn't trust. Shibuki tried to reason with the blonde-haired Ginuriki. I don't care. Just tell me where she stays at. Nar grunted in response as he stared the village leader in the eyes. But just tell him where the girl stays. Shibuki-san Mafun injected with a calm voice with a hint of steel within it. Hi, she lives on the island with the giant tree in the middle of the lake. Shibuki sighed in defeat before gesturing to Sato. Sato will arrange for a boat to Nar was already 1 foot out the door before glancing back over his shoulder. I'll water over there myself. Be careful, Nar Toei. Mafun said with a smile. Of course, Mafun-sensei. I'll be back before you know it. Nar replied in kind before sprinting off. The crimson yukata-clad boy leapt along the rooftops as he traveled towards the large lake, ignoring the stares and whispered mutterings about him as he passed villagers. Eventually, he arrived at the edge of the lake. He continued right on without stopping and channeled a slowly fluctuating flow of chakra to the soles of his feet. Still can't believe that lazy bastard of a Junin didn't even bother teaching me this, instead throwing me off to one side to be taught by that closet pervert Ebisu. Nar thought with a slight growl. Not to mention that useless super perverted meatbag that didn't teach you anything either during that training period. Caillou injected suddenly. Ah yeah, that stupid Arrowzen as well. At the very least he taught me the Rinnegan spiraling sphere. Nar sighed dejectedly when he was once again reminded of how much he was held back by his ex-village. No use brooding over it. Don't want to end up like the Uchiha brat. Plus you're heading towards the Jingariki of the Nanabino no Kabuto Mushi now. You can't afford to be going in half-ass, especially when you don't know what rank she is. Caillou reminded him as she narrowed her eyes behind her cage. Oh, right. So, do you have any tips or information regarding the Nanabi? He inquired after a few seconds. As suggested by her title, she has control over all insects. Kind of like that clan of bug-using meat bags in Konoha except more powerful and diverse. The Nanabi is female, too. Okay, regardless, so like fighting an extremely powered up Shinoha. Sounds interesting. Don't underestimate her. She isn't the Nanabi for nothing. Caillou lapsed into silence after that parting statement. Shino used chakra-eating insects, which is something that I don't have to worry about with my massive reserves as well as Kyobi's chakra being toxic to them. However, who knows what other kind of insect she can control. Nar thought as his foot hit solid dirt once again. Taking a look around, he noticed that dense jungle surrounded the gigantic tree in the middle. Many of the tree trunks had scars on them, suggesting that many a battle had taken place on this island before. "Hello, anyone here?" Nar called out as he cautiously advanced into the jungle, paying careful attention to the forest floor to avoid tripping any traps. "What do you want?" A feminine voice hissed in response, echoing throughout the jungle and making it impossible to pinpoint her location. "My name is Uzuaki Naro. I just want to talk." He tensed his body as he heard the rustling of leaves and foliage. "That's what the last person said before. Trying to stab me." The voice yelled in anger as the rustling got closer. "I'm not like the others. I'm a friend of Shibuki, the one who helped him defeat his traitorous master." That seemed to give the rustling a slight pause before the voice replied, "Shibuki-san has told me the story. How do I know you are not just lying to me? You just have to trust me, I guess," Nar said softly, prompting a huge burst of killing intent to flood the jungle. "Trust you. Trust you. Trust is what caused me all of this pain and suffering. Trust is what turned me into what I am now. Trusting is for fools." The voice roared in rage as the jungle around him suddenly buzzed to life with the sound of insects. Nar leapt up onto a tree branch as he felt the ground shift beneath him. Not a second later, and the ground collapsed, revealing an entire swarm of crimson-armored ant-like creatures. They were about the size of a thumb each and huge snapping mandibles that clicked together angrily as they gazed up at him. "Mushiden Dubari Renden, insect release poison needle barrage," the voice shouted, causing the blonde to leap from tree branch to avoid waves of glowing purple stingers that were being launched at him. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu Shadow Clone Technique. Nar summoned 4 shadow clones to aid him in drawing away attention, which worked perfectly as the attack halted. "As I said, I don't want to fight you. I just want to talk. Get off my island, Mushiden." Hotar Ruby Insect Release. Firefly Light. Nar and his clones braced themselves for an attack, only to stare in confusion as small glowing fireflies started to emerge from the forest and float around them. One of the clones held up a finger as a glowing yellow firefly drifted down towards him. The moment the firefly touched the finger, it burst into flames and dispelling the clone. "Oh, Shikatsu detonate." The fireflies all instantly exploded with the force of an exploding tag, turning that area of the jungle into a fiery explosion of roaring flames. The scorched body of the blonde-haired Jinguri flew out of the blast radius and slammed into the forest floor with a grunt of pain. The top of his outfit burned off to reveal charred skin underneath. "That hurt," he coughed as he struggled back up to his feet. "I told you not to underestimate her." Kobe shook her head inside the seal as she started healing him. The containment seal appeared in blank ink on his stomach as red chakra bubbled out from it and settled over his upper torso, healing the third-degree burns that covered it. "Why you that chakra? You're a Ginuriki like me. You contain the Kobe no Yoko." The voice gasped in surprise, causing the buzzing insect life to suddenly go silent. "Utsumaki Nar Ginuriki of the Kabi no Yoko at your service." Nar grunted as he did a painful bow only to WSE in pain. "Why are you here? Did your village send you to assassinate me?" The voice hissed in suspicion. "What? No, I'm no longer part of my village. I am the apprentice of Mafune-sensei, the current samurai general of Tetsu Nuni," he replied, still trying to pinpoint the source of the voice. "Ginuriki, tell me, was your childhood like mine? Were you too shunned from the populace due to something that was beyond your control?" Her voice was noticeably less hostile this time around. "Hi, I too was an outcast within my own village. Whatever you have been through, know that you are not alone and that there are 7 other people like us out there." The silence reigned for the next few moments before the sound of leaves rustling overhead could be heard and a humanoid form dropped out from the canopy and landed on its feet directly in front of him. Nar curiously took in the sight of the female before him, the Jingariki of the Nanabi no Kabuto Mushi. Fu wore an orange clip in her short spiky mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Her forehead protector was worn on her right arm. Fu also carried a cylindrical object in red, wrapping on her back, the purpose of which was unknown to him. Uzumaki Nar, she whispered before a large grin formed on her face and she crushed him in a hug. It's so nice to meet a fellow Jinchuriki, which means you're like my brother Nay. Likewise. And I guess we're siblings in a way. Nar replied hesitantly as he was in shock over the girl's sudden attitude change. Man, what the hell is up with this chick? One moment she's trying to kill me and the next she's calling me brother and squeezing the life out of me. Nabi has always been the most immature one in our group. It wouldn't surprise me if her container obtained part of her happy-go-lucky attitude and her multiple personality disorder. Kobe snorted with amusement. Wow, an immature beiju-tailed beast. I think I'm running out of oxygen. Nar thought to himself as he quickly broke free of her death hug and took quick gasps of air. Fu cocked her head to one side for a moment. Shay-chan asked why you would come all the way out here to meet me. Naruto voiced in confusion. That's the Nanabi no Kabuto Mushi. It's less than greater than her name. Fu replied as if he had just asked the stupidest question in the world. That's not fair. Kobe-chan won't even tell me hers. Nar exclaimed with a pout. Like I would grace a pathetic meat bag like you with my name. And who the underscore are you calling Kobe-chan? Kaoli growled from inside the seal. But you won't tell me your name, and Kobe isn't your name, as it's just a title. So I decided that Kobe-chan would be more acceptable. Nar explained through the mental link. Whatever meat bag, it's not like that. It bothers me anyway, Caillou muttered before cutting the link from her end. A warm feeling she had not felt for a long time suddenly blossomed inside her. The last person to call me, that was Tan. Well, as I said, I am currently apprenticed under Mafune-sensei. So, he's taking me around the elemental nations to learn about other nations and their people and culture. Of course, whilst teaching me awesome stuff as well, Naruto said with a grin. And so, when I heard that Takar Nasto had a Jingari as well, I was eager to meet you. Why would you want to meet me? Fu asked in confusion. I mean, we're both Jingarkas. I thought that maybe we could relate to each other. It's always nice to have someone similar to share with and confide in. I wish that there could have been someone like that in my childhood. It would have made it a whole lot easier. Nar sighed sadly. I know what you mean. Only a handful of people like Shibuki-san bother to befriend me. The rest all treat me like some sort of plague carrier. Fu shook her head slightly as memories threatened to engulf her. I wanted to prove them all wrong, to show them that I wasn't the monster they thought I was. Which was why I set my sights on becoming the Hokage so that everyone would acknowledge and respect me. I now realize that I was a fool to have believed that. Nar whispered with a sad tone. Why, I thought it was a good goal, Fu told him with a frown. Then they would be acknowledging me for my prowess and not me as a person. That is not something that I really want. I want them to acknowledge me as Suzuki Naruto, a person, and not for being the Hokage or being the strongest shinobi. Unfortunately, it will not happen. That's true. So, what do you plan on doing? She asked her fellow Ginuriki. Get stronger under Mafune-sensei's guidance and even stronger beyond that. Nar declared loudly with a smirk. Why do you want to get so strong? A friend of mine once told me, a person is only truly strong when he has something precious to protect. I have had many precious people, or so I thought. So my dream is to become strong, stronger than anyone else so that I can protect all my precious people in future. Nar shouted out loud as he slammed his fist into an open palm. That is a good dream, Narfu said with a kind smile before giggling and jumping on his back. Am I one of your precious people too? Of course you are. We Jingariki have to stick together, you know. Nar laughed as he balanced himself with the added weight on his back. Nar, tell me more about yourself. Fu demanded suddenly, causing the blonde to blink in surprise. Tell me about your life, about you in general. Then when you're done, I will do the same. That's what friends do, right? Fu asked with a hesitant smile. Sure, that sounds like a great idea, Nar replied as he began to tell his tale to the attentive green-haired girl. It all began when the Kyobi attacked Konoha with Mafune and Shibuki. The two leaders were currently sitting in Shibuki's home, more precisely the living room where the window gave them a perfect view of the lake and the island. The large explosion startled them for a bit but relaxed, trusting the blonde-haired boy to be capable of looking after himself. This is excellent. Shibuki-san, Mafune commented as he took a sip from the white porcelain cup in his hand. Definitely it is directly imported from Shaokuni, land of tea. Shibuki stated as he took a sip too before setting the cup back on its saucer on the table. So why the early visit, Mafune-sama? You only just visited me a week after my inauguration as the leader of my village a few months back. I have come to warn you. Mafune said simply as he drained the cup of its contents before setting it down as well. Warn me? Warn me about what? Shibuki asked with a bewildered expression. There is a certain organization by the name of Akatsuki. He smirked grimly when he saw his fellow leader stiffen up slightly at the mention of that name. I see you've heard of them. My father has mentioned them before. A mercenary organization composed entirely out of S-class missing nin from various villages. I heard that Iwagakure had made use of their services before. Shibuki explained. True. However, Akatsuki has been dormant for quite a while, at least until recently. My sources have told me that their activity has suddenly started up again. And the information they brought me is rather troubling. Mafune laced his fingers in front of his face as he sat back against the chair's backrest. Shibuki gulped nervously as he wondered just what kind of information it was and what does this have to do with me or my village. It seems that Akatsuki is looking for something, or to be more specific, 9 particular people. People that hold the power of a demon within their hands. The Jinchuriki. The Jingariki. More precisely the Beiju that they contain. What they want them for, I have no clue. But that kind of firepower under any one person or village is definitely very bad, which was the reason why Senju Hashimaru saw fit to evenly distribute the Beiju at first. Mafune explained as he watched sweat trickle down the Takiger leader's face. So you're saying that Akatsuki might come looking for Fu? Shibuki very nearly squeaked out. No, that's a relief. They're definitely coming to hunt down and capture your Jinchuriki. Mafune said, with a serious expression. Shibuki opened and closed his mouth several times in a perfect imitation of a goldfish before his eyes rolled up into the back of his head and he fainted right into the chair he was sitting in. That could have gone better. In Tsunade's office. The blonde female Hokage sighed angrily as she rubbed her temples in frustration before glaring at the 3 shinobi standing at attention in front of her desk. Despite being elite veterans and clan heads, they all flinched when that glare was turned on them. So, you're telling me that you tracked a trace of Kyobi's chakra all the way to a town near the original location and found the stupid pervert over there and he told you to head back? Had asked with a slow draw. Hyunade-sama. All three responded with a gulp, and nobody in that town knew where the merchant caravan was headed. Negative, Sama. The caravan leader never disclosed the next destination of their travels to any of them. A method to reduce the risk of an ambush being laid out on their route by bandits or missing. Ninam answered. Understood. So there was no other trace of Uzumaki Naruto in that area. Nothing at all. Sununade seemed almost desperate as she asked. The Kali must have been done healing him by then, as the trail ended at the inn. I detected no other traces of the Kaobus or the boy's chakra after that. Hai replied with a shake of the head. Same as Hiyashi-san. My hive couldn't detect either of the chakra. Logic dictated that we follow Jiraiya-sama's orders, as the trail had already gone cold. Shibi added on in his usual indifferent tone. I see. Thank you for your time and effort. You will all be paid a B-ranked mission pay for this. Though I have to ask, why did you suddenly volunteer yourselves? Truthfully, this time's asked softly. Sun sighed as she hung her head. I was a close friend of Kasha's along with Makoto. We used to hang out and do everything together. I should have done more for her son. So, I guess this was me trying to make it up. Same with some. I was a close friend of Minato's. Plus, Naruto helped me to open Nei's eyes once again. I felt that this is the least I could do for the boy. Hayashi admitted, I was neither close to Yandai-sama or his wife. However, Naruto as a Ginuriki would understand the feeling of being an arame and the glares of disgust we receive due to having insects inside us. I merely wanted to help the boy. Shibi said, thank you for being honest. You're dismissed. Waved them off with her hand, prompting the three to give a curt nod each before leaving through the door. Just as she was about to slump in her chair and sigh, the door opened again to reveal a deceptively frail old man holding a walking cane. He had black shaggy hair and his right eye was bandaged. He had an X-shaped scar on his chin. He wore a white shirt with a brown robe over top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. Shimmer Danzo. To what do I owe the honor of this unpleasant visit? Sununade spat out with narrowed eyes. What's with all the hostility? Can't less than greater than ti pay a visit to my god I'm Hokage. Fifth Hokage Danzo asked with a pleasant smile on his aged face. Cut the underscore, Danzo. I don't like you or trust you and I know the feeling is mutual. So what are you here for? Sunade asked as the fake smile dropped from his face, revealing a neutral expression. Utsumaki Naro, such a disappointment. It really breaks my heart to see such potential go to waste. Gintoriki of the Kobe no Yoko, as well as son of the famous Namikaze Minato and remaining survivor of Yusuzu Shiok-nodo, village of the whirling tides, Uzumaki Kusha. Danzo sighed with a smirk on his face. You, how did you know? Sununade demanded as she slammed a fist on her desk, cracking it slightly. Calm yourself, Sununade. Did you really expect such important information to escape my notice? I knew ever since that old foolin brought that baby back from the battlefield. He settled himself down on one of the chairs in the office. Glared at him. So, where are you going with this? Here should have agreed with my request. Imagine how strong the boy would have become under my wing. How loyal he would have been. Danzo emphasized as he tapped his cane against the floor. How emotionless and brainwashed he would have become as well. Sununade scoffed in response. Who said I was going to enroll him into my route? I was planning on personally teaching him myself, an apprentice, if you will. What would have been the point of an emotionless Jinchuriki? It would have been redundant. Jinchuriki fight at their best when they are enraged. Of course, I would have taught him how to control that rage as well. Danzo mused. There's no point in saying that now with Nar being missing and all. Sighed as she was unable to refute his logic. It is no surprise to me that he would leave. He even left for the same reason his teammate Sasaki did. To his credit, the elderly man did not even blink when the Hokage smashed her desk into splinters with her punch. Don't you dare compare Naruto to that traitor Isuchi. True, their goals are not the same, but their reasons are. They both left because they both felt that the village was holding them back, which was true in Uzumaki's case. Wait, what do you mean by that? I interrupted with a confused expression. Danzo shook his head with a sigh. It's sad really being taught only the tree walking exercise by his Junin instructor. Then being pawned off to that joke of a shinobi Ebisu to teach him the water walking exercise. His only real training came in when Jera appeared during the Chunin exams and taught him the Kuchio less than Unk greater than S no Jutsu summoning technique in Rinnegan spiraling sphere. He never told me any of this. Sununade whispered whilst mentally noting down to have a serious talk with both of the perverts. Understandable, especially since he has been hiding behind a mask all this time. Danzo had to hold back a chuckle when he saw his eyes snap open. He's been what? Surprising. No, not really. Sununade. The boy learned the Rinnegan within a month when it took the Yandaime 3 years to create and Jiraiya a year to learn. He took down the Ginuriki of the Ikebe no Tanuki 1-tailed raccoon dog by himself. I would go as far as to say that the boy is a genius in hiding. Danzo said with a serious tone. A genius? You must be joking. Sununade exclaimed with a flabbergasted face. I am completely serious here. If the boy's progress hadn't been intentionally sabotaged by the teachers in the academy. At an early age, he would definitely have become or surpassed Uchiha Itachi in terms of prowess. Such a waste of potential. Danzo shook his head in mock sadness. So, what do you want? Finally asked. Nothing much. Just to have your permission to fill in the gaps of Team 7 with 2 of my own shinobi. Danzo replied, quote, ... I don't see any problem in that. However, you'll have to bring them in for an evaluation first. Sighed as she relented to his request. Of course, Hokage-sama. I will have them over in a few hours' time. Danzo said as he rose from his chair and opened the door but left a parting message before leaving. Remember one thing. I am not your enemy. I just want the best for my village. That's all. Outside the entrance of Takar no Sadto. 2 figures wearing black coats imprinted with red clouds stood side by side as a Takiger shinobi walked up to them with a dazed look in his eyes before dropping down to one knee. Sasori-sama. He whispered in greetings. Rise. Now tell me of the situation in your village at the moment. The hunched-over figure asked, revealing himself to be Sasori. Mafune. The samurai general of Tetsu. Nokuni is visiting along with his apprentice Uzumaki. Naruto. The unknowing spy reported, causing the 2 Akatsuki members to freeze slightly at the information before the upright one suddenly laughed. Well, looks like Kam-sama is indeed shining down on us artists today, Sasori. No, Donna. Yeah, 2-for-1 deal today. I hope Itachi and Kisame won't be mad when he steal their prey. Yeah. Shut up, Dara. But what you said is true. It must be our lucky day. Maybe Leader Sama will let me keep their bodies to use as puppets after we're done extracting the buju from their bodies. Sasori muttered to himself before shooting a sunbi into the neck of his spy and knocking him out though. What about this Mafune? He sounds like a pretty big shot. Dita voiced his concern. He is the current leader of the samurai in Tetsu Noi, and from what I have gathered over the years, definitely no pushover either. I heard he fought against Salamander Hanzo in his prime and earned the man's respect, something that only the Sonin of Konoha had done. Sasori said before further elaborating. He is a master of a way of a style of kenjutsu that is concerned with the smooth controlled movements of drawing the sword from its scabbard, striking or cutting an opponent, removing blood from the blade, and then replacing the sword in the scabbard. That's a scary kenjutsu style. Yeah. Dara whistled after hearing the explanation. Agreed. I would safely put him on par with a cage. So, we should steer clear of him if possible. If not, then one of us had to distract him whilst the other defeats the two Jingury and capture them. Worst case scenario, we grab the Nanabi Jinguryuki and bug out. Suzori told his partner, getting a laugh from him. Haha, bug out, I see what you did there. Deidara smirked before shoving his hands into the pouches strapped to his waist and pulled them out to reveal two identical clay birds. With a simple command, the two clay birds suddenly came to life before expanding in size, allowing the two Akatsuki members to leap onto their backs and take off into the sky. With Naruto and Fu, the duo had spent around an hour or more finding out about each other. They can safely say that they definitely know almost everything about each other now. They were now sitting beside each other under the giant tree in the middle of the island, their backs resting against its trunk. I still can't believe you painted the entire Hokage monument in the daytime whilst wearing an orange jumpsuit and nobody noticed you. Fu giggled as she imagined the scenario in her head. That's because I'm the best, Fu-chan. Nar exclaimed as he puffed out his chest with a grin. As if I still kicked you in our fight. Fu reminded him as she jabbed a finger into his chest. Oh yeah, well, I bet I would beat you the next time we get down. Nar shouted mid-sentence before tackling Fu away from their spot just as two white blurs slammed into it. And detonated in two large explosions. What the hell was that? Fu screamed as she leapt to her feet, followed by Nar. The two of them scanning their surroundings. They were saved from the trouble when two figures landed in front of them, causing both of their eyes to widen in recognition and then fear as they recognized the cloak. Akatsuki Nar cursed as he quickly drew out two kana and clutched them in his hand. They're that group that's hunting us for our boo, right? Fu asked seriously, having slipped into her battle personality. Well, looks like the two brats are well informed. Suzori no. Donna. Deidara chuckled before they both sealed their hats, revealing him to be a feminine-looking male with long blonde hair. It doesn't matter since they're coming with us anyway. Suzori grunted. His face was strange to say the least, as if I'm going to let you take Nanabi from me. Fu shouted as the insects of the jungle buzzed to life around her. Yeah, the same goes for me and Kaobi. Nar shouted as well, his kunai humming to life with a blue glow. Thanks, meatbag. I'm really feeling the love here. Caillou had re-established the mental links sometime during the two Jinguryukis' conversation and knew of their current predicament. You know that you stand no chance against 2S rank missing nin, right? I know, Naruto replied with gritted teeth. However, this is the only thing we can do until Mafune-sensei and help arrives. Looks like the Kaobi Jinguryuki really has been training under the samurai general. That's the technique that samurai used to strengthen their katanas. Suzori remarked roughly before his jaw suddenly unhinged and a spray of sunbi shot out. The two Jinguryuki quickly dove for cover as the S-band punctured the forest floor as well as several tree trunks. Fu cursed when she noticed the sunbi near her hiding place were covered in a dark purple liquid. Nar, the sunban are covered in some kind of poison. Don't let even one of them touch you. Fu yelled from her cover. Won't less than greater than tr. Buju purge the poison from our system anyways. Nar asked as he tumbled from his cover as it exploded and came up next to her. True, but it will take time and we will still feel the poison's effects before it's purged. We can't afford that if these two are S-ranked missing nin. And going by what the blonde once said, the hunched-over figure is Asuna no cases. Suzori of the Red Sand, a missing nin from Sonagar no Sadto hidden sand village. He was their strongest puppet master before defecting. And definitely still the strongest up to now. Fu told him before they had to leap up onto separate tree branches just as their cover was blown up. What about the crazy blonde transvestite with the bombs? Nar shouted out loud, getting the reaction he expected. I'm not a transvestite, you stupid brat. Yeah. Dara roared in outrage as he released a barrage of small clay birds which homed in on their target's location. I'm not sure. Could be a Bakuden explosive release user from Iwagakar no Sadto. Hidden Rock Village. Fu replied as she flung several kana and detonated all the clay missiles before they could reach her. Nar chose to dive off the branch and landed in a crouch on the ground, causing the homing explosives to slam into the tree he had just vacated, blowing it to splinters. He took a shaky step backwards that saved his life as the tip of Sazori's metal tail erupted from the dirt just an inch from his face, the poison coating it clearly visible. Fuck this shit, Nar cursed as he formed a cross-shaped hand seal with his fingers. 4 shadow clones appeared around him in formation. The clones each had their own pair of chakra-enhanced kana held in their hands. They charged towards the Akatsuki duo with their weapons brandished in front of them. Sazori easily deflected all the strikes by using his metal tail to parry all the incoming blows while his partner just stood there and absorbed the blows into his body with a grin, revealing that it was actually a clay clone which exploded and dispelled all the clones. Dare, you little bastard. Watch what you're doing. Sazori growled as the smoke cleared to show that he had soot covering him in his cloak. Sorry, Sazori. No, Donna, but I just can't contain myself when I get to show people my art because art is a blast. Dedera cackled in glee as he held his fingers up in a hand seal. Meet my beautiful creations. The two Genshirikis blinked in confusion when nothing appeared when they both felt something crawling up their body. Their eyes flew wide in shock when they saw several clay spiders. Son of a Katsu. Didar's command was nearly drowned out by the resulting dual explosions that sounded throughout the jungle. Twin columns of black smoke rising into the air. Dida, you better hope that they're still alive. Sazori grunted before glancing up at the rapidly rising plumes of black smoke. Well, if they didn't know we were here before. The smoke cleared to reveal 2 charred logs and blackened ground, but no bodies, alerting the 2 S-rank missing nins to the use of the Kawari Nojutsu substitution technique to escape the blast. Sazori shifted his scorpion-like tail into an attacking pose, his eyes scanning the area and waiting for a counterattack. Nar and his fellow Jingariki were panting as they hid from the 2 Akatsuki members, their bodies a little bruised and battered, but nothing serious yet. They're less than greater than out of our league. What are we supposed to do? Fu asked with a hint of panic in her voice. Nar looked around as he desperately tried to think of a plan, his brain thinking back to his battle with Fu and how she used the terrain to her advantage. A smile slowly worked its way onto his face as a plan started coming together. He turned towards his partner with an evil grin. Say, do you think they have any bug spray? With the Akatsuki duo, Dara and Sazori were cautiously moving through the jungle foliage before pausing when they felt a huge pulse of chakra usage and suddenly they were surrounded by blonde-haired boys with grinning visages. Didder returned the grin as he stuck his hands into his pouches in preparation as Sazori unhinged his jaw, the glint of steel showing in his mouth. This tactic again. When will you learn that quality wins over quantity every time? Yeah. Durera mocked before the wave of shadow clones descended on them. Sazori had trouble dodging with his bulky frame and giant metal stinger. So, he chose to block and counter using said stinger, impaling and slicing through clones with deadly precision whilst firing some bonds at every available opportunity. Dedera chose to play on the safe side due to being in such close quarters, sticking with his smaller explosives and taijutsu. Mushiden Oritsuka o Yaku insect release burning until. Fu called out as she slammed her palm onto the ground, causing the dirt beneath the mass fight to collapse into a pit. A pit filled with the armored crimson ant-like insects with giant mandibles. Hey, what the underscore, you stupid ants. Stop biting me. Yeah, Dara growled in annoyance as the insects bit into his clothing and flesh while his partner seemed to have no reaction whatsoever to the insects' bites. Stop whining about some measly insect bites, Suzori said as he dispatched another clone by stabbing it through the chest. That's easy for you to say. Your entire body is a stupid puppet. You can't even feel any of their bites. Yeah, Dara yelled with a tick mark on his brow. What did you call my art? Suzori glared at him. As the two Akatsuki members were arguing over the finer points of art, Fu had overheard their conversation and was already preparing for her second part of the plan. So, your body is a puppet, huh? Too bad I don't have any termites with me now, so you'll have to settle for being firewood. Fu muttered to herself with a grin. Mushiden Dotar Ruby insect release. Great firefly gathering. Hundreds of yellow glowing fireflies floated out from the surrounding jungle and into the pit, bathing the occupants in an ominous yellow glow that stopped the bickering. What the hell are those fireflies? Dara asked with a cocked eyebrow. It looks like it, Suzori growled as he swatted yet another handful of clones away with his tail. What was it you said? Naruto's voice drifted down into the pit, causing them to look up to see an evil grin on his face. Oh yeah, art is a blast, Katsu. Fu snapped her fingers. A flash of yellow light was followed by an earth-shaking explosion. A pillar of roaring flames erupting out of the pit and into the sky. Naruto and Fu dug their fingers in their ears as their respective buju healed their blown eardrums, both with tired but happy expressions on their face. It did not last very long as two amused chuckles sounded from behind them and they spun around to see both Akatsuki members completely unharmed, their clothes not even torn. How? Nar stammered in fear. Did you really think we would walk into a trap like that? Suzori shook his head, in amusement. Both of them were just clay clones of mine, but man, that was a really artistic explosion. Yeah. Did whistled in appreciation. Suzori raised his left arm, which appeared to be some kind of weird contraption attached to it. Enough playing around. I can sense multiple chakra signatures approaching. Must be Mafune-sensei and Shibuki along with some Takiiger shinobi. Nar whispered under his breath, getting a grunt of agreement from the green-haired girl. Kubutsu no Jutsu Gishu Bon puppet. Technique prosthetic arm needles. Suzori launched the contraption directly at them, causing them to dive to the sides to avoid it. Getting a smirk from the puppet user, the bulky arm-like missile suddenly fired off the wooden cylinders connected to it, which then opened up to release a hail of poison-coated S-Bon in all directions. Unprepared and unsuspecting, the two Jingari were caught by the surprise technique and were punctured in multiple places by the needles. Inside those needles are strong, paralytic poisons of my own making. A normal full G-grown adult would have fully succumbed to its effects and died within a span of 3 days. But since you two are Jingariki, I have no doubt that you will survive, Suzori said as he retracted his now empty left hand back into the cloak. As shit, Naruto swore as his vision started to turn hazy. Kobe, a little help. I'm working on it. The demonist responded as she tried to purge the toxin as fast as possible. Fu seemed to have a higher resistance to the poison as she stood her ground. Only a slight occasional squinting of the eyes gave away her condition. A red chakra cloak bubbled out from her seal and surrounded her as she called upon the Nanab's power, giving her a pair of wings on her pack as well. Suzori unlatched his mouth once again and released a shower of S-Ban at her which proved to be useless as the needles melted upon contact with her Jingariki cloak. Fu took off into the air and charged towards them whilst performing aerial stunts to evade the exploding clay birds that Deidre was chucking at her. Rengan Nar shouted as he appeared behind the Exiwager shinobi and slammed the orb of condensed spiraling chakra into his back. The attack drilled into the Akatsuki member's skin until it suddenly turned white and pasty, revealing it to be another clay clone, which had trapped Naruto's arm within its body and refused to release him. A few seconds later, and the clone detonated, the force of the explosion, sending the blonde-haired boy sailing through the air and smacking against a thick tree trunk. Nar looked up to see Sazori had an unconscious and cut up Fu in his tail's grasp while the bomber shinobi was reaching out to grab him. Just come along quietly. Yeah, Dita taunted as he reached for the injured boy before his arm was suddenly severed at the elbow, leaving a bleeding stump behind. Make another move towards my apprentice. And I'll take your other arm off as well. Mafun whispered dangerously with his hand resting on his sheathed katana. You old bastard. You cut off my beautiful arm. How am I supposed to make my art now? Yeah, Did screamed in outrage as he waved his bleeding stump around. Shibuki Sato and several other Takiger shinobi appeared at that moment. All of them currently utilizing the famed Takiaku Ryu Mizuki no Ye hidden waterfall-style water-cutting blade. Shibuki stepped forward and pointed the water blade at Sazori. Release Fu immediately. You're vastly outnumbered, he demanded with an angry glare. Dare pick up your arm. We've acquired our target already. Leave the Uzumaki brat. Sazori whispered harshly to his partner, who seemed reluctant, but did as he was told before whistling aloud. It's been a blast, but we really have to go now. Dara gave them a salute using his severed arm before a giant clay bird swooped down and picked them up. A hail of shuriken, kunai, and water enjutsu shot after the fleeing missing nin, but all fell short as the Akatsuki members escaped cleanly with their target. Damn it, Shibuki shouted as he pounded a nearby tree trunk. Shibuki, calm yourself. There's nothing we could have done, especially on such short notice. Mafun said as he placed a hand on the angered leader's shoulder to calm him down. Shibuki took a deep breath to regulate his rage before asking, what of Nar? Is he alright? He's alright. The Kobe is already purging the paralytic poison from his system. The battle still proved to be pretty tiring for him, so he's currently unconscious. Mafun gestured to the sleeping blonde behind him. You know he's going to go ballistic when he realizes he failed to protect Fu, right? Shibuki asked the samurai general, who could only nod sadly. It is inevitable. The sooner he realizes that he can't protect everyone, the better. In Kanahagakar no Sato Hogue's office, Sunyunade was sitting behind her desk as she gazed at the folder placed on her table, the shinobi career file of one of her top Ambu agents. Ambu Captain Nico, otherwise known as Isuki Yugao underneath the mask. The beautiful purple-haired Kunoichi had a spectacular record, graduating as the Rookie of the Year in the same year as Uchiha Itachi, albeit in the actual graduation exams. She made it to Chunin on her first try in the Chunin examinations that were held in Sonagar no Sato that year, 1 year later, and she was field promoted to Junin. Not soon after the skilled Kunoichi had applied to enter the elusive and prestigious organization known as Ansatsu Saninjutsu Tokushuai. Special Assassination and Tactical Squad or ANBU for short, also passing the entrance exam on her first try. She quickly ascended the ranks and was the third youngest to achieve an ANBU captain at age 15, with the first being Uchiha Itachi at age 13 and Hideki Kakashi at age 14. Consulted the file further and found a recent psych report from the head of the Yamanaka clan, Yamanaka Inanoichi. Azizuki Yugao was always a caring and loyal person, also known to putting her all into whatever task is given to her. However, the recent loss of her lover, Gecko Hayate, has affected her in many ways. She seems to have closed up all her emotions and seems hellbent on avenging his death, a disturbingly familiar goal to that of one Uchiha